Yeah, we see the team card hoarder team here with Scheer, Quinn Kiefer, and then Robert Graves.
Yeah, one of two card hoarder teams here this weekend. So we're starting with Reed, Duke, and Caleb Scheer. They're closest to you. In the middle, playing Modern, we have Quinn Kiefer playing Hexproof against Scherer-Fabiano and Grixis Control. You play Grixis. That's actually can be kind of dicey.
Yeah, it really depends what Fabiano has in terms of non-targeted removal. If he has anything like an Edict, Sideboard Engineered Explosives. But if Quinn's deck is functioning, it's going to be really tough for Fabiano.
And then in Standard, we have the 4-color Saheeli deck from Robert Graves facing off against Andrew Boswell, who has been one of the people to still stay on green-white tokens. That said, though, we will move to our Legacy match. Reed starting on Deathrite Shaman. Via Gitaxian Probe, we get to see the rest of his hand. Daze, True Name Nemesis, Jace, and 2 more lands.
One of which being a Wasteland. Scheer doesn't have access to too many basics, just 1 swamp in his deck. So it's likely that he'll just kind of have to play a non-basic into that one.
Probe again from Caleb. There's not, so the only form of ways to stop Storm that looks like that Reed has is a Daze and then a Deathrite Shaman activation.
Here's a Lotus Petal. Looks like Scheer did not have a land.
Well, is it if he doesn't have a land, or is it if his land
doesn't want to get wasted? I
yeah,
suppose.
if it's an Underground Sea and not the fetch land, I don't know why he'd run it out yet.
Yeah, that much makes sense.
I like how he leads on the pedal. Then Reed has to think, am I going to daze this? No, and then he doesn't. Then Caleb plays no land, and Reed, you know.
Yeah, and if he just goes for the daze there, then he can't cast turn 2 True Name Nemesis. And with the Lotus Petal on the table, that's going to make the daze in Duke's hand a lot less effective.
Depends how much more mana Caleb has, but you're right. So Reed, True Name Nemesis, and Jace the Mind Sculptor in his hand. We'll see when he decides to tap for these, and it looks like he'll just go for True Name here.
You know, Scheer knows at least most of what's in Duke's hand. He already knows about the daze. Can't really bluff something like a Spell Pierce when you'd have to have drawn it off the top.
Here's Bloodstained Mire, and now the question will be, can Caleb Scheer combo through a daze?
He has at least 1 Dark Ritual in hand.
And he has that Lotus Petal to pay for daze. So it's, if he has the pieces, he stands a reasonable shot of going for it here.
Scheer finding basic swamp, it's not necessarily a tell if he can kill this turn, but it's playing it safe around that Wasteland in the case that he doesn't.
Yeah, if Reed had, say, top decked a Force of Will to go with that Jace, then Caleb probably can't combo through it.
Right. I believe that Scheer does have a Cabal Therapy in his holdings.
And aside here, you see Quinn Kiefer and Caleb Scheer consulting there. Quinn playing his Hexproof deck against Scherer-Fabiano. And it's going to be Cabal Therapy from Caleb. And I like this play a lot. It gives him the ability to name days, which he does. Reed shows a hand of Jace, Wasteland, Wasteland.
That hand's not doing too much here.
Caleb just says go, though, speaking of not doing all that much. Reed will face the choice here. He can play Jace and tap out, or he can leave up a Deathrite Shaman activation.
Deathrite Shaman doesn't do a terrible lot against Legacy Storm when it's going off. Going for the Jace here makes a lot of sense. He could potentially brainstorm into a Force of Will.
And that's what he'll do.
Even another daze would be great to find off the top here.
Brainstorm from Reed draws 3.
Yeah, there are 3 copies of daze in Duke's deck, as well as 4 Force of Will.
Caleb's got to know that it's likely that Reed found something. See attacks with True Name Nemesis. But this is what Caleb planned for. He could have named Jace the Mind Sculptor if he didn't want this to happen. And he chose to name Daze. Draws his 1-of copy of Ad Nauseam. Uses Lotus Petal to cast Ponder. Will that resolve? Looks like it does.
Cracking Lotus Petal to cast a cantrip is not a sign of strength for these Storm
No, not into
decks.
that.
I'm fairly confident that Scheer does not have access to another land here. Still the potential to win just off of this. If he has, say Dark Ritual ad nauseum, he's missing either, ad nauseum or second Dark Ritual. You can just win from that.
What I don't get is that if this was Caleb's line, I'm kind of surprised that his therapy named Daze instead of Jace.
Well, given that he's Landlight, the Daze is just excellent against this hand, right?
Well, maybe. I mean, so is Jace.
Jace isn't bad, but it's not guaranteed to be a counterspell, whereas when you're light on mana, Daze basically is.
That's fair enough. Caleb draws a fetch land, but it's Bloodstained Mire, which means if he wants blue mana off this, he'll have to get a dual land and open himself up to those wastelands in Reed's hand.
Right.
Now he's figured Duress from Caleb. He's going to try to clear the way. Force of Will, Daze, blue card. Those were the three drawn by Reed. Oh my.
That's not a bad hand.
That's well done. He'll take the Force of Will, but
yeah, not surprising to see the hard counter going, though that Daze is looking pretty good against the way that Scherer has played this game.
Jace is a good card.
You're not wrong.
Look at all those things that got him. Interestingly, with the second Wasteland in Reed's hand, if he wanted to use both Wastelands, he could take care of this Bloodstained Mire.
Yes. And when we're in the phase where Jace is brainstorming every turn, this card can really run away with the game. Not to mention that Scheer also already down to 12. True Name Nemesis is active and attacking. Deathrite Shaman's hanging out.
Yeah. I kind of like the double Wasteland play here as well.
Yeah, that would choke him on mana.
He'll go ahead and instead set up a perfect Brainstorm. Can't fault that. Resolves the 0 on Jace, now cracks a fetch land.
If he has something like another cantrip here, this makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And if you don't have another counter, the double Wasteland doesn't really accomplish very much.
Sure, if you don't, yeah. He has the Daze still in his hand, and as long as assuming he didn't shuffle it away. And it looks like he actually just has another copy of the card Brainstorm in his hand, which that's what he'll play. So we're just rebuilding that counter spell wall. Finds another Force of Will.
It's a good one.
Right now, Caleb has Duress to Reed on consecutive turns, and each turn Reed has been able to find another copy of the exact card that Caleb took.
And with the power level of the cantrips and card filtering in Legacy, when the Storm deck casts a discard spell on a turn other than the turn that it's combo killing, it doesn't really give you as much information as you actually need. Scheer's been leaving Reed with not very good hands at the ends of any of his turn, but then Reed takes his turn, and suddenly his hand is excellent again. And it's no fault of Scheer's here. He just has a hand that does not give him enough mana to actually cast these and be comboing off. He's missing something.
There was, we saw some windows on the earlier turns, like the turn where Reed tapped out for True Name Nemesis, where if Caleb's hand had made up a little better, Caleb, he said he could probably, with that Lotus Petal, we expected he might be able to win through the days.
Right.
But Reed's done a great job of closing that window, especially with getting the Jace resolved. And you see now he's going to actually Thought Seize, and Caleb doesn't even want to show him the hand. He'll go ahead and scoop the game. So Reed Duke takes game 1.
Yeah. Scheer's odds of winning for there were such a long shot that giving Duke access to the kind of information for what could be his hand, conceding in response there just makes a lot of sense.
So 2 results in. Team of Boswell, Fabiano, and Reed Duke, they pick up a win in Legacy with Sultai Control. However, in Standard, it's Robert Graves taking game 1 over Andy Boswell. And we will go ahead and look at the sideboards here for Scheer and Duke. For Caleb Scheer, he's got a set of Abrupt Decays, 2 Surgicals, 2 Chain of Papers, and then a lot of different 1-ofs.
So the thing that Scheer is most concerned about is going to be those Leovolds out of Duke. You know, he's going to have the counter spells. He's going to bring in whatever he has for those. Likely he's going to leave the Empty the Warrens on the sideboard because you can always Burning Wish for that one. This isn't a Massacre, Mass Up, or anything like that. A lot of his sideboard is actually stuff that he just wants to Burning Wish for to begin with. Chain of Vapor comes in a lot of these matchups where you highly suspect, and you know, with Reed, if you've seen his deck, you know that he has Leovold. So having the Chain of Vapor as an answer to that makes sense. You could go for Abrupt Decay. That one's fine, but given that, you know, it does kill Deathrite Shaman as well. This one might just be quite good.
So we did have a glimpse there as the Beast players were getting ready for sideboard. We saw some of that modern match between Quinn Kiefer and Gerard Fabiano. And if you caught it on Quinn's side, there was certainly a creature with about 5 auras on it, which generally means that player's about to win the game. Quinn did just that.
That's going to outperform the control decks in Modern, that's for sure.
So Caleb down a game, but his teammates both up. On Reed's side, he's looking at counter spells and cards this matchup. He's got 2 Flusterstorms, 2 Surgical Extractions, and a Nile Spellbomb all available to him.
And a Thoughtseize. This stuff all seems quite solid. It's not guaranteed that Graveyard Hate is going to be able to do too much against Storm. The Surgical Extraction is generally going to be more effective than the Nihil Spellbomb, but the Spellbomb does at least replace itself. You know, using Surgical to deal something. If you could say Thoughtseize away a Burning Wish or something like that. The thing about the Storm deck is it has a lot of different moving parts that can kill you. Even if you Surgical away ad nauseum or Tendrils, they can still go for that empty kill. So there's no really way to Surgical them out of the game, but the stuff is all still fine.
Yeah. So they'll get ready for a second game. Right now, Reed Duke with Sultai Control up a game. Over at StarCityGames.com, we have our weekly sale every week on the store. For this last week, for Valentine's Day, we had our Valentine's Day special. Lots of, for example, things you can do with your loved ones, like a dual deck or cards that involve hearts
or lightning bolts.
Or for the truly passionate relationships, we have a sale on Lightning Bolt.
Red is the color of passion.
So all red cards on sale. That one makes sense. Even goblins. No way to show how much you care than a good sale on a goblin. Those will be going on all weekend. And on Monday morning, we'll have a new deal, so check back then over at StarCityGames.com. For Reed Duke, it's been a while since we've seen him here on the SCG Tour. The 27-year-old from Sugarloaf, New York, was in the second Players Championship back in 2015. Did end up making the finals of that Invitational, where he lost to Tom Ross. Had a slew of top 8s of Invitationals that year, and really one of the better rivalries during that whole season.
Look at this conversion rate as well. 8 open top 8s with 5 wins.
I mean, Reed Duke has been a strong player off and on the SCG Tour. That sort of record here on the SCG Tour is among the best, if not the best. And that says nothing of the things he's accomplished in other Magic tournaments as well.
Right.
So we are underway for the second game. Caleb Scheer this time will be on the play. Last time, game 1, he did seem to have a window to win, but wasn't able to convert on it.
Yeah, his hand looked a little bit light. He was looking for something off the top of his deck, and his deck did not deliver.
All right, so underway here for game 2. Caleb starts out on an Underground Sea, and for Reed, it is Nile Spellbomb.
And that'll turn off a lot of the Past in Flames action. You know, Scheer sometimes wins the game by going for that.
Caleb setting up just with 2 lands. See Reed, Daze, Wasteland, or Daze, Force of Will, and Nile Spellbomb. He is certainly playing the defensive game. He'll ponder here and hopes to get a threat going of some sort, which he can kind of wall up behind.
Right. He's going to need a clock. The thing about Storm, it's pretty good at tearing apart these blue deck's hands if you give it enough time. Also, if it just makes a number of land drops, finds a bunch of Lotus Petals, Dazed really stops mattering.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, if they don't kill the Storm player, they might just cast ad nauseum.
Right.
It will be Noble Hierarch for Reed Duke. And this is one of the interesting parts about this Sultai Control build. It's got 14 creatures, and 8 of them are just mana producers, Death Ray Shaman and Noble Hierarch.
Notably, these creatures are capable of dealing damage. You know, the Hierarch has exalted that the Deathrite Shaman can exile instants and sorceries to drain life. Generally considered upgrades from Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, Death Ray Shaman a little better than that.
Not exactly modern legal as that one.
And Caleb just passes. And this seems like the second game in a row where Caleb's deck isn't exactly doing what he wants.
I spy some red cards in his hand and no red mana sources on the battlefield.
How about this from Reed? True Name Nemesis, tapped out, go.
There's a Badlands off the top for Scheer. Maybe he can get something going on this turn.
I would, you know, if Caleb does not attempt to combo this turn, I would be surprised, as I'm not sure what he's waiting for. Like, if he's waiting for a better window than this, that seems unlikely.
Sometimes you have enough stuff to narrowly combo and you wait to be able to discard on the same turn.
Rite of Flame for Caleb. All right, we are going to, here we go. So Storm is at 1, 2 red mana in the pool for Caleb. I'll go for Cabal Therapy, targeting Reed.
Reed tapped low here, so the only things he has to be concerned about, Daze, Force of Will, and the potential of a Mind Break trap.
Yeah. Denial Spellbomb in play too, but that one's on the board. He knows
exactly.
about it.
You can't answer that one with Cabal Therapy.
Reed is deciding what he wants to do in response to this therapy.
So resolving the ritual first suggests that Scheer's plan involves paying for days if he has to. Likely that this Cabal Therapy is going for Force of Will.
Right, you can pay for the dazes. Say his next play is like a Dark Ritual. Maybe he has 2 Dark Rituals in hand. That would make a lot of sense here.
Ritual ad nauseum tends to do it.
Yeah, and it would have that through a daze. And we see what Reed is going to do is he's going to cast Surgical Extraction on the Rite of Flame.
If that was the way that Scheer's generating mana on this turn, that'll cut him off of that.
Well, that's not too bad, right? If Caleb has another Rite of Flame, he can cast it now.
The Rite of Flame is a sorcery.
Oh, yeah. And he actually gets... No, you're right. And he's going to get a Rite of Flame out of Caleb's hand. So this is actually somewhat punishing to Caleb that he didn't just play the next Rite of Flame immediately.
He is going to miss out on going +2 mana off of that one.
Maybe just +1 if Reed would have surgicaled in response, but still
Sure.
Every mana can count in this deck.
Right. You know, currently, you could choose to Ritual or Chrome Mox, and that would put him at 5 mana coming off of Infernal Tutor. That's not really enough to do anything.
No, you see Caleb taking all the Rite of Flames out of the deck. Yeah, Dark Ritual to 5. I guess his plan would be Dark Ritual up to 5 mana.
If you Infernal down to 3, you have to be finding something to be doing the next turn.
Yeah. It's one update, though. While things are going rough for Caleb, his teammates are cleaning house. Robert Graves, a 2-0 winner over Andrew Boswell in Standard.
And Fabiano is certainly facing a bad matchup, facing down Quinn Kiever on Hexproof. Quinn up a game as well.
Reed can only win 1 match.
At a time.
That's fair. I guess if he wins it fast enough, he can. Oh, my. So Caleb names Force of Will off Cabal Therapy, but maybe he should have named Daze. Reed didn't daze the spell at all, and now look at this.
I think it's safe to say that Scheer did not know that Duke was holding 3 days.
How sick would you be in your stomach if you're in Reed's spot, and then Caleb just said Daze? He's just like, you know, you're a master. I don't know what to tell you.
Nice card.
There's no way he can combo through 3 dazes.
We can't really combo at all here.
No. He's gonna cast
Infernal for
Infernal
something.
Tutor. No, but Reed could just daze this one. No, he can only daze it twice.
Yeah, Scheer has a mana floating.
He can't bounce 3 islands. You're right. Okay.
Right.
So I guess this has to resolve.
Yeah. Scheer really can't find too much from this spot, though.
Yeah, Reed can use Nile Spellbomb to clean up the graveyard, and then he can leave up all these dazes as True Name goes to work.
This one makes sense.
Reed is just, he is catching Caleb at every turn in this match. Especially that whole sequence. He surgicals, gets a free card off Caleb, lets a therapy resolve, gets Caleb to name what should have been the right card but was the wrong card. And just now going to work with another Noble Hierarch. It's now exalted up to 5.
If Duke does not have Surgical on Rider Flame, Scheer could have beat Double Days.
Right. Land for Scheer. He still is holding on to that one card. We don't know what it is. But Reed has the world's worst mana leak in hand. It involves you to bounce all your lands.
Technically costs 2 mana still currently as well.
Yeah, so this mana leak has an additional cost of bounce 2 lands.
And there's a Bayou for Duke. That one's not an island. Okay,
Lion's
this is
Eye
interesting.
Diamond for Caleb. Now that the Spellbomb's gone.
That pays for days.
All 3 of them even.
We
is
might
it
have
ad
a
nauseum?
game.
Is this ad nauseum?
He tutored for ad nauseum.
Oh, wow. Okay, now remember, Caleb is at 10. He's at, so...
Can't respond to this mana ability. Scheer's going to have 3 mana floating. Can do that.
Well, Reed drew a Force of Will and just casts it. That should do it.
Yeah. I think we're done here.
5 from the true name. Land.
Yep, and that's going to
And
seal it
land
up.
again. Reed Duke, mentioned before, has Caleb at every turn, including when Caleb hits the top deck. Reed has him there also. 2-0 for Reed Duke.
Yeah.
So a quick 2-0 win here for Reed Duke in Legacy is good, but Robert Graves had responded earlier in Standard with a 2-0 win over Andrew Boswell. So now it's going to come down to the youngest member of the card hoarder team. That's going to be Quinn Kiefer. He's playing Modern Green-White Hexproof against Gerard Fabiano. Gerard's playing a Grixis control deck. Now it wouldn't be a Gerard Fabiano deck if there weren't at least 2 copies of Ashiok Nightmare Weaver in it.
I was just going to ask about that.
Oh yeah, just
obviously.
Of course. It's
It's
not what you'd expect out of a normal Sultai deck or Grixis deck. There's no creatures.
Jace Friend's Prodigy.
Yeah, 1.
He put him in the wrong column. He's got Snapcaster Mage.
No. We're going to go ahead and get you to the match here. So now all eyes are on this. We go over, and Quinn at 9. Look at that. He's got a creature with 4 auras.
Oh, that Ashiok's right on
but
time.
Gerard's got his Ashiok.
That's going to seal this game up.
At 6. Exiles the top 3. And maybe we have come just in time to see Quinn win the match for his team.
You sure he's going to be able to beat this Ashiok?
Well, as long as he attacks Gerard and not Ashiok, I think he's okay.
That's a good point.
Draws here, Gerard, 1 card in hand. I don't know.
I believe that Curfew is not modern legal.
Yeah, it's like I don't think there's a 1 mana blue-red card that can win this. It's an attack. And actually, it looks like it's not lethal. Yeah, it puts Gerard down to 1.
That must be double Spider, Umbra,
yeah,
Rancor.
it's Rancor, Umbra,
Okay.
Spider, Spider. So Gerard now at 1, 2 hexproof creatures, both lethal. He's got Quinn down to 9.
So what Fabiano's looking for here, he has 2 Damnation in his sideboard. He has 3 Cryptic Command in his main deck. So he needs to be using that stuff to clear this board up a little bit.
Yeah, and he doesn't have it. Gerard extends a hand, and all matches finish. All are 2-0s, but it is the team of Graves, Kiefer, and Scheer handing the upstate New York team their first loss of the tournament. So Card Hoarder will move to 4-1. The other team getting their first loss, they're now 3-1-1.